Hello and welcome back. In the last episode, we prepared our scene list. We have a treatment, a scene list, and we're ready to start writing the first draft. Let's get started. We're in the writing studio and we now have a blank sheet of paper. I'm going to give it a name now so we know we're writing The Obsidian, a ghost story. And people have their own ways of doing this. I always call it D1 for draft 1, P1 for part 1. Right, now before we get going, I need to tell you some rules because everything we've done so far in story preparation is a different set of skills to what we're going to use now that we're writing. Writing a story is something completely different. If you think of it as the planning stage as being an architect who is there with pencil and paper and designing a grand building. But now we need a builder to actually mix the cement and lay the bricks. A completely different set of skills. There are 4 rules that I would say that any writer needs to follow when they write the first draft. I'll write them down for you. So the first is write only what you can see. It's amazing how many people will talk about what they were thinking, what they were feeling. You never want to say that. You never want to say that somebody was brave. What you need to do is have a house on fire and see them run inside to rescue the children. So we know that they're brave. You need to create the situation that shows they're being brave. You never say it. Now, likewise, we need to try and avoid what somebody is thinking. The best way we could do it is to write a situation where we understand that character, we know what they're thinking. We can already sense it. That's what we want to try and do. Now, the other thing we're going to do is we're going to write hard and fast. A first draft is a little bit like an artist with a blank canvas. They don't just start in the top corner and start painting intricately. What they do is they sketch some lines first on the canvas and they might throw a few colours on. Or if you think about a sculptor might pick up pieces of clay and just throw rough lumps of clay together to get the basic shape. That's your first draft. Your first draft is not a finished product. It will be awful. We'll say that in a moment. But your first draft is going to be bad. What you want is to get the whole story onto paper from start to finish as fast as you can. Just write fast, dirty, make a mess. No problem. That's exactly what we're looking to do. Now, the third rule is to never read back and never edit. What I mean by that is a lot of people will spend time polishing a scene. Forget that, not important. We'll see that when we have the complete story written down, you may find that one scene is no longer necessary, so it can be removed. If you've spent time polishing it and making it beautiful, you've just wasted your time. What we're going to try and do is actually edit the book before we write it. We're going to write it as fast as we can, just write it badly. Then we'll edit it and make sure we get all the right scenes in the right order, that it's dramatically sound. When we're at that point, then we'll go and start writing it beautifully and making the text all flowing and nice. We're not interested in that at the moment. All we want to do is to get it down so we have from the start to the finish. So all you need to do is just write, and never read back. If you go and read back and think, oh, I need to change this, I need to change that, it doesn't matter. We change it later. This is not the time to be polishing. So just write fast, write hard, and get it finished. And the fourth rule, as I was saying just a moment ago, is this will be awful. I mean, I cannot stress this enough. It's going to finish looking like a child who's done it with crayons. It will be terrible. You'll feel embarrassed. I always feel embarrassed, and I've done it 10 times. Quite often with my students, I tell them this so many times, say this is going to be awful. When it's finished, it'll be just the worst thing you've ever read, and you'll feel really ashamed of yourself. You'll be really embarrassed. And they go into it thinking, oh no, it's going to be good. I'm doing well. Then they finish it and they read it back and they've got their head in their hands and they can't believe how atrocious it is. It's supposed to be. We're not trying to make it beautiful. All we want to do is get it finished. So these are the 4 rules that we need to start with. So I'm going to clear that, get myself ready, and I'll go back to my, I printed out my scene list and I know my first scene. Robert is walking in the night and finds his wife missing from their bed. He hears the front door slam closed and looks through the window to see his wife Rebecca walking away into the fields. Now, with openings, we always want it to look, we want to grab people on the first sentence. So I'm just going to say, let's say Robert jumped at the sound of the door slamming. Then sat up in bed when he heard his wife scream. There. Now that's the first sentence. Robert jumped at the sound of the door slamming, then he sat up in bed when he heard his wife scream. That's a good way to start. That's going to grab your attention. Rebecca, he called. There was no response. Rebecca! And reach for, let's say, his trousers. Reach for his trousers. Only a nightshirt. And let's have a look. Robert jumped at the sound of the door slamming, then sat up in bed when he heard his wife scream. Rebecca, he called. There was no response. Rebecca! He jumped out of bed and reached for his trousers. He was wearing only a nightshirt. This is something I was going to say. You don't need to describe things. One of my big mistakes, I always describe tears for some reason. When people cry, I talk about the type of tears. Not important. One of the things students often do is the first time they'll write about the sun was a glowing orb in the sky. We know what the sun is, right? You don't need to describe it. I don't need to describe his nightshirt. About the only thing I want to put in is just to set the scene. It's a cottage. It's nighttime. Yeah, that's actually, I'll put this in. So he was wearing only a nightshirt. The trousers. As he rushed for the window. Let's just... Robert! Voice came from outside. Help me! Help me! Help me! Outside, under a full moon, his wife was walking away from the cottage, hand in hand with a little boy. Being 6 or 7 years old, but he seemed to glow with some unearthly light. Ooh, because he's a ghost. Robert bounded down the stairs. Let's say he bounded, he ran. And threw open the front door. I want to say the hellhounds. Do I want to bring them in now, or shall I bring them in later? Shall he go in to try and chase, and then the dogs are there? Decisions. We can always change it later. So Robert bounded down the stairs and threw open the front door. Rebecca was walking away in an unusual gait. Her head was twisted almost completely around to look back at the home, as her face was contorted in terror. But I'll put a semicolon. Semicolon, if you're not sure about semicolon, a semicolon is used to join two sentences that are kind of the same thought. It's the same idea. If you've got two sentences similar, you can separate them with a semicolon. Her head was twisted around, almost completely round to look back at the home as the face was contorted in terror. But her legs walked as though she was going for a pleasant stroll. I'll have them shout, "Hey, hey, boy, what are you doing?" The little boy, holding her hand, turned his head, as per se, and as the moonlight caught across his face, he seemed to vanish into a misty, glassy, transparent form. I told you this would be terrible. It's like the worst thing. Worst drafts are just awful, but keep on writing because that's what we want. In fact, I'm going to stop it there. So I'm going to carry on writing. But this, you get the idea of what I'm doing. Let's just get it out. Let's get writing. So I'll keep on with this. We'll come back in the next episode and carry on with this. And I'll do a few of these so you get the idea of how to write fast, hard, and how to keep going. So until then, we'll see you soon.